Hey guys, tonight we crack open a Greek myth so quiet, so gloriously uneventful, you'll probably be asleep before anyone even argues about a golden apple. Yep, tonight we follow the life of Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, the actual fireplace. She's technically one of the 12 Olympians, but if you're picturing dramatic lightning bolts, wild affairs, or at least one epic sword fight, don't. Hestia doesn't throw lightning or ride chariots, she just tends to the eternal flame and minds her own business, which, to be fair, might make her the most powerful being in Greek mythology, because everyone else is exhausted. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I want to see how far the sleepy hearth light spreads. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on the fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're born into chaos. Not like your room's a mess chaos, more like your dad is a titan named Cronus who has a snack problem. And that snack? His own children. He's been told one of his offspring will overthrow him, so naturally, he does what any rational immortal would do. He swallows them. Whole. No chewing, just straight down, like divine vitamin gummies. You're the firstborn, which means you also have the unique honor of being the first kid to go down Cronus's gullet. You probably didn't expect your mythological origin story to start in a digestive tract, but here we are. Your siblings, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, Demeter, follow shortly after. It's a family reunion, but with significantly more stomach acid. Historians still argue whether the Greeks imagined this swallowing situation as literal or metaphorical. Like, was there a cosmic playpen inside Cronus? Or was it just a poetic way of saying, Dad's a controlling nightmare? Either way, you exist in limbo, tucked inside a titan until your youngest brother Zeus is born and secretly raised away from your dad's buffet habits. Zeus grows up, finds out what happened, and decides it's time for a Cronus cleanse. He tricks his father into vomiting all of you up, still fully intact, which is both comforting and slightly horrifying. Apparently, titan digestion takes centuries and never progresses past the still wrapped in swaddling cloth stage. You're the first one out. The same way you went in. There's a poetic symmetry to it. First swallowed, first freed. And somehow, in all of this divine family trauma, you remain the calmest presence. While the others grab their weapons, settle scores, or start plotting temple designs, you take a moment. You breathe. Look at the chaos of Olympus forming around you, and you quietly choose something else. Zeus, now the de facto CEO of Mount Olympus, starts assigning roles. Lightning god? Taken. Queen of the gods? That's Hera. God of the sea, underworld, harvest, war, love, every role filled with bold personalities who, let's be honest, are kind of exhausting at parties. When it's your turn, Zeus offers you a prime seat among the 12 Olympians. You nod, accept the position, and then gently slide to the side. You ask for the hearth. The hearth isn't flashy. It doesn't come with winged sandals or a golden chariot. It's just the fire that burns in every home, temple, and city. The literal center of the house. The gathering point. It's warm, it's constant, and most importantly, it's not going anywhere. This is where the others laugh. Not mockingly, just confused. Who willingly skips divine drama for kitchen duty? But you know something they don't. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simmers. You become the goddess of the hearth, home, and family. Three things that don't exactly make headlines in Olympus tabloids, but quietly run everything. You don't need a temple with columns and chaos. You're in every flame that lights a meal, every fire that warms a child, every spark that keeps the shadows back. And here's where it gets weirdly relatable. While your siblings chase love affairs, scheme for power, or get cursed for looking at someone the wrong way, you stay. You don't seek worshippers. They come to you. You don't boast, you glow. One mainstream historical fact worth knowing: in real ancient Greece, before any major sacrifice or public event, people would honor you first. That's right, even before Zeus. If a prayer skipped Hestia, it basically got marked as spam by the gods. But despite being universally respected, you're somehow always in the background. Like that one cousin who's at every family function, always setting the table, never making a scene. You become the first flame lit in new colonies, the last extinguished in a dying city. You're the silent constant, which, ironically, makes you the most consistent deity in a pantheon full of emotional pyrotechnics. And the strangest part? You're totally fine with it. There's a fringe theory, probably invented by some very tired scholars, that Hestia represents a kind of divine introversion, that her myth is the only one that actively celebrates not doing things. Not chasing lovers, not fighting monsters, not starting wars, just tending the fire. Honestly, goals. So while your brothers are brooding over thunderbolts and sea monsters, and your sisters are refereeing mortal beauty contests or turning dudes into lizards, you're out here minding your embers. You make peace look powerful. You make warmth feel sacred. And you do it all without a single scandal. You'd think that would get boring, right? But somehow, as you sit by the eternal flame, unbothered, you'd think after surviving the stomach of a titan and getting your own hearth-centered corner of Olympus, things might settle down. But no, family drama doesn't just evaporate once you're vomited back into existence. Let's rewind a bit. Your dad, Cronus, didn't always have the worst parenting instincts in the cosmos. Once upon a time, he overthrew his dad, Uranus, sky god and professional jerk, by, let's just say, forcefully rearranging the family structure. The scythe was involved. You can fill in the blanks. So Cronus, now king of the universe, gets this chilling prophecy. One of your kids will dethrone you. Not might, will. No ambiguity, no loopholes, just classic ancient Greek storytelling. Fate has zero chill. Cronus does what most tyrants with trust issues do. He decides to neutralize the threat, which in Greek mythology means eating your children like they're an after-dinner snack tray. You go first. Why you specifically? Maybe birth order, maybe because you looked at him funny. Historians still argue whether Hestia, as the eldest Olympian, was seen as symbolically more dangerous or just unlucky. Either way, gulp. Down you go. And honestly, it's not the worst place to be. You've got your siblings with you. It's cramped, sure, and probably smells like fear and olive oil, but it's also quiet, peaceful even. No responsibilities, no chaos, no overachieving demigods throwing lightning at your face. But then, enter baby Zeus. Born in secret, hidden away on the island of Crete, raised by magical goats and warrior nannies. You know, the usual. When he's grown, he confronts Cronus, slips him a poisoned drink, or an emetic potion depending on which version you hear, and out you all come like divine nesting dolls. There's this strange moment when you hit the light again. The world is noisy, bright, loud, but you're still you, still calm, still collected. Your siblings are scrambling for vengeance or territory. You're already scanning the room for a place to put a kettle on. Here's a fun fringe tidbit. Some ancient sources claim that because you were the first swallowed and the last to be vomited, you might technically be the youngest. You do the math. Greek mythology isn't always consistent, especially when time gets metaphorical. But whether you're the eldest, the youngest, or just stuck in middle kid energy, one thing's for sure. You're done with family drama. Still, there's one final performance before you can fully embrace your fireplace lifestyle. The Titanomachy. Picture this. Your freshly regurgitated squad of Olympians declares war on Cronus and the Titans. It's an all-out divine brawl. Mountains are thrown, rivers scream, the earth quakes like it's trying to rage quit reality. You're technically part of the rebellion, but let's be honest. You're not exactly the MVP of the battlefield. You help where you can. You bless the sacred fires. You keep the morale warm. But you're not hurling boulders or cursing landscapes.
That's not your style. You're more logistics and vibes and sword and vengeance.
Eventually, the Titans lose. Big time. They get imprisoned in Tartarus, which is like the underworld's underworld. Zeus takes the throne, Olympus gets built, or renovated, depending on your interpretation. And suddenly you've got 12 big divine personalities all trying to run the universe at once. Imagine a boardroom where everyone thinks they should be in charge. You've got Ares punching holes in the wall, Aphrodite making everything romantic for no reason, Hermes being annoying on purpose, and Athena correcting everyone's grammar. It's exhausting. But you? You keep your fire lit, always. That's your thing. While the rest are out doing flashy stuff, you stay. You tend the hearth. You make sure there's warmth at the center of Olympus. And in return, your siblings respect you, but also kind of overlook you. They assume you're just there, like background music in a waiting room. Always appreciated, rarely acknowledged. And weirdly, that's how you like it. One very real historical fact here: every temple, no matter which god it was dedicated to, also had a small hearth for you. Even in temples to Zeus or Apollo, there was always a flickering little fire burning in your name. That's the kind of quiet dominance you're rocking. But of course, your family can't leave anything alone. Even with the war over and the power structures set, they keep stirring the pot. Affairs, betrayals, mortal meddling, they just cannot stop making things harder than they need to be. You get pulled into some of it, mostly as the voice of reason, the calm center, the one who doesn't overreact when someone accuses Hera of turning someone into a bird again. Sometimes you wonder if you should have just stayed inside Cronus. At least it was peaceful. Still, Olympus is your home now, and your hearth is the center of it. People come to you when they're lost, confused, or just cold. Mortals light candles to you at every birth, every marriage, every oath. Your presence doesn't boom, it hums, soft, steady, reassuring. It's the opposite of glory-seeking, and somehow more powerful. Oh, and about that throne, you don't actually keep it. Not forever. Later on, you give it up, voluntarily, to make space for a younger god who throws better parties, but we'll get there eventually. For now, you're back from the belly of a titan, surrounded by unpredictable immortals, and finally in a position to choose peace. You take it, you nurture it, and you protect it like it's the most sacred thing in the world. Because for you, it is. You'd think after surviving a childhood digestive trauma and helping overthrow the Titan regime, you'd be entitled to a little vacation. A nice chariot cruise through the constellations, maybe a golden hammock overlooking the Aegean. But no, Olympus is hiring, and Zeus is in full HR mode. You're standing in a marble hall that smells like lightning and sandalwood. 12 thrones gleam in a semicircle, each waiting for its divine posterior. Zeus is handing out job descriptions like candy. Poseidon, sea. Hades, underworld. Demeter, crops. Hera, marriage. Ares, war. Aphrodite, love. Athena, wisdom. Hermes, delivery guy. Apollo, sun, music, medicine, everything he can get his hands on. Artemis, hunt. He gestures to you with all the flair of someone about to announce a game changer. Hestia, you're one of the 12. Choose your domain. You step forward. You don't even hesitate. I'll take the hearth. A pause. Somewhere, a god drops their ambrosia. Hermes nearly chokes on a lyre string. The hearth? Zeus blinks. Like fire? Fireplace fire? Exactly, you say, calm as always. The hearth. The home. The center. I'll tend it. And that's that. You politely turn down offers of battle glory or dramatic sky responsibilities, and instead, ask for the cosmic equivalent of kitchen duty. And yet, everyone will come to you. Because every meal, every sacrifice, every prayer, they all begin and end with fire. With warmth. With you. Historians still argue whether this was a calculated move of quiet power or just your eternal desire to not get involved in Olympian nonsense. Either way, It works. Soon, your fire is burning in every temple across Greece. Every city-state maintains a public hearth in your name. And if a flame goes out, it's a whole ritual to relight it. Mortals are more afraid of disrespecting your little flicker of flame than of angering the god of war. Honestly, that's kind of iconic. Your job is simple on the surface. Keep the eternal fire burning. But symbolically, it's everything. The hearth is life. It's family, safety, food, and belonging. You're not just warming toes. You're anchoring civilization. And the perks? Not too shabby. You don't have to deal with mortal drama like Aphrodite. No awkward temple orgies. No complex death paperwork like Hades. No monster-battling hero internships like Athena. You get to sit by your fire and quietly judge everyone else's chaos. Perfect. Your sacred symbol isn't a spear or a crown. It's a glowing, cozy flame.
Whenever new cities are founded, they bring fire from your public hearth to light their own. It's like the Olympic torch, but with more ancient symbolism and fewer commercials. Here's a fringe tidbit. In some myths, before any major meal, yes, even among the gods, offerings were first made to you. Not to the god of the harvest, not to the god of the feast, to you. The one who made the feast possible in the first place. No flame, no cooking. No Hestia, no dinner. And no one likes a hangry Zeus. What's even more powerful? You're the only Olympian who consistently refuses to escalate. When your siblings bicker, which is always, you stay seated. When mortals beg for favors, you nod and bless them with warmth. Never curses, never plagues, never turning people into pine trees. That's not your aesthetic. And yet there's real power in that restraint. Other gods rely on followers for status. You're in every home. You're summoned with every matchstick, honored in every family's daily rituals. Even if people forget your name, they remember the fire. You've become a presence so integrated into life that you're invisible, but indispensable. There's an old saying, no one builds a temple to silence, but without silence, the temple falls. You, Hestia, are that silence, that presence that holds everything together. You're the pause between dramatic myths, the breath between stories. It's honestly kind of baller that while Zeus is out chasing nymphs and Poseidon is throwing temper tantrums in the sea, you're just at home, chilling, being the quiet MVP. And that throne Zeus offered? You don't even hold on to it forever. At some point, you literally give it up to Dionysus. Because the guy needs a seat, and you don't need to be in the spotlight. That's right, you willingly step aside so the party god can pull up a chair. No tears, no drama, just you tending the flame. No one else would do that. Literally no one. Imagine Ares giving up his throne for anyone. Or Hera graciously moving over for a frat boy in a grape crown. Nope. Only you. Your story is calm, but it's not boring. It's intentional. You choose your lane and stay in it. And in doing so, you become the center of everything. You don't need a golden chariot. You've got a clay hearth. You don't need thunder. You've got the soft crackle of fire. And somehow, you make that the most sacred sound in the world. You are by now the official queen of keeping things unproblematic. You sit calmly beside the hearth on Olympus while the rest of your immortal siblings spiral. Aphrodite's in the middle of another love triangle that somehow involves a goat. Ares is training soldiers just so he can yell at them for fun. Hermes is stealing things, mostly just for the dopamine hit. Zeus is being Zeus, which means someone, somewhere, is being seduced or zapped, probably both. And then there's you, serene, quiet, utterly unbothered. People keep expecting you to, do something, smite, flirt, throw a lightning bolt, but you never do, not once. Because while everyone else is chasing something, glory, romance, revenge, you make the most radical decision in the entire Greek pantheon. You opt out. You, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, home, and general chill vibes, decide that you don't need romantic drama. You don't need lovers. You don't need to be worshipped with golden peacock feathers or violent orgies or 100 oxen sacrifices. You just want things warm and still. And this blows people's minds. Ancient Greek culture, like its mythology, was very into passion, big feelings, bigger consequences. Most deities are defined by who they love, hate, transform into a flower, or hurl into the sea. But not you. You vow chastity. Not because you're prudish or scared or secretly heartbroken, but because you actually just don't care. And in a pantheon where every sibling is thirsting or cursing or married to someone they're fighting with, that's wildly unexpected. You don't abstain out of obligation. You choose peace. And oh boy, people are not ready. Apollo and Poseidon, the twin towers of charisma and drama, both try to court you, separately but around the same time. It's unclear whether this was some kind of weird Olympian dating challenge or if they genuinely liked you. But either way, you decline. Politely. Firmly. Repeatedly. You tell Zeus you'd rather remain a virgin forever than marry either of them. And honestly, that's the ancient Greek equivalent of swiping left and then deleting the whole app. He respects it. And surprisingly, so do they. No revenge, no turning your hair into snakes, no wars, just acceptance. Because you're that grounded, that powerful, that untouchable. Historians still debate whether your vow was seen as empowering or just convenient. Like, oh, she's single because she wants to be, versus she's just not in the narrative because no poet wanted to mess with her. But regardless, you make it clear. You are not available, emotionally, romantically, mythologically. And this becomes your brand.
It's like the ancient version of setting boundaries and actually sticking to them. One mainstream historical detail worth knowing. Your vow of chastity wasn't just a personal choice. It was sacred. Anyone who violated the sanctity of your hearth or your virginity would face divine punishment. And we're not talking a bad harvest. We're talking Zeus-level wrath, minus the messy paternity suits. But the thing is, no one really does challenge your vow. It's not even a tempting storyline. You're too calm, too grounded. It's like trying to seduce a lighthouse. You're not moved. You're not amused. You just keep glowing. And mortals, they love you for it. Because while the other gods might offer adventure, passion, chaos, you offer stability. Your temples aren't orgiastic frenzies. They're serene, smoke-scented spaces. Places where bread is baked and oaths are whispered. Where priests tend fires, not gossip. Where girls and women, especially those who felt invisible elsewhere, found representation in your stillness. Fringe tidbit. In some lesser-known rural rites, unmarried women would make offerings to you in secret, asking for peace of mind rather than husbands. No swan seduction required, just peace. And let's be honest, in a culture where marriage could be, not great for women, your myth represented an alternative, a space for female autonomy, for opting out. You weren't worshipped with symbols or gladiator games or bloody sacrifices. People honored you by being present, by lighting a fire, and sitting still, by not starting fights, by not running away. Honestly, your whole myth could be a giant ad for introverts, or a meditation app. And yet, you're not boring. You're purposeful. You're the eye of the Olympian storm. While everyone else is charging around with golden swords and generational trauma, you remind them that peace is still possible, that home
matters. That maybe, just maybe, the most powerful form of love isn't explosive or desperate or doomed. It's quiet, steady, chosen. Your love life, such as it is, becomes a statement, a non-story that says everything. In a world built on epics, you are the pause. In a pantheon obsessed with action, you are the gentle stillness in between. And in your stillness, you are never alone. Because wherever there's warmth, there's you.
Let's talk about rejection. Not the tragic kind where a nymph turns into a tree to avoid her stalker, or the theatrical brand where someone curses your entire bloodline for ghosting them. No, let's talk about your flavor of rejection. Calm, polite, and utterly devastating. Because when Apollo and Poseidon, two of the most eligible bachelors on Olympus, step forward to woo you, things get awkwardly intense. Apollo, the shining golden boy, literally the sun sometimes, shows up with his lyre and smile, trying to serenade you into a divine power couple situation. Poseidon, meanwhile, crashes the party like a walking tsunami, all trident and ego, tossing in promises of underwater palaces and tidal devotion. And you? You simply say no. No drama, no dueling riddles or fatal pacts. Just one elegant, unwavering vow. You will remain a virgin forever. You could almost hear the room suck in its breath. Because this isn't just a polite thanks but no thanks, this is divine-level commitment to staying out of everyone's business. You make your declaration in front of Zeus himself, which is like announcing your celibacy at the loudest family reunion in history. Zeus, to his credit, and probably to everyone's shock, respects it. Maybe he senses that your refusal isn't weakness, it's strength, the kind of strength that doesn't need to win battles or write ballads to be felt. Here's a quirky tidbit. Your vow is so serious it gets institutional backing. Zeus decrees that any attempt to force your hand, romantically, politically, or otherwise, will be met with full Olympian wrath. Essentially, you gain something no other goddess really gets: complete autonomy, shielded by law. This isn't a love triangle, it's a closed loop, and you seal it with fire. Meanwhile, Apollo and Poseidon, they back off. No temper tantrums, no epic quest to change your mind, just acceptance. Which, for them, is actually shocking personal growth. It might be the most mature thing either of them does in any myth ever. And the result? You carve out a position that's unique on Olympus. While your sisters battle infidelity or arrange extremely awkward marriages, you sit, undisturbed, beside your hearth. No forced unions, no tragic love stories, no kids who accidentally cause global plagues. Historians still debate whether this moment, the refusal of Apollo and Poseidon, was meant to be a proto-feminist moment or just a weird mythic pause in the otherwise romantic roller coaster of Mount Olympus. But in any case, your choice. Even rowdy soldiers, fresh from battle, will mumble your name as they step into a home. Because nothing says, "Don't bring the war inside," like the goddess of the hearth staring you down with soft, judgmental warmth. One mainstream fact. In every Greek city-state, there's a public hearth in your name. It's where sacred fire is kept burning 24/7. If the flame goes out, that's a civic emergency. Priests would have to rekindle it from another city's hearth fire. And not just any city, a friendly one. Which means your flame was not just symbolic, it was political. It literally kept cities connected. You're not just protecting the hearth, you are the hearth. You are the link between oaths and peace, homes and nations. You're the soft heartbeat in the marble chest of civilization. And because of that, you're the only Olympian who's never exiled, never cursed, never forced to go on humiliating quests. Said no to Olympus's most eligible bachelors. Twice. You've carved out a throne for yourself, made not of gold or war, but of glowing embers and freshly swept stone.
You've become the only goddess who says, "I'm good, thanks," to both power and passion. And somehow, that only makes people love you more. It turns out the whole eternal virgin thing is not just a vibe, it's a full institution. Your refusal to marry becomes official religious policy. It's not just a personal choice anymore, it's sacred law. And with that vow, you become something rare, something untouchable. You are Hestia, virgin goddess of the hearth, and absolutely no one wants to mess with that. Now, here's where things get interesting. Your temples, if you can even call them that, aren't temples in the traditional Greek sense. No giant statues, no thundering columns, no elaborate mystery cults or cryptic rituals. In fact, most of your worship happens in homes, in kitchens, in small, quiet fires where bread is baked and babies crawl and grandmothers mutter blessings while stirring lentils. Historians still argue whether this counts as high religion or just good manners. Like, is a household flame really a divine altar? Or is it just a really cozy place to warm your toes? But in practice, the difference doesn't matter. If people are lighting candles in your name, you've already won. Meanwhile, your official priestesses? Not super dramatic, not scandalous. They're not out there dancing in moonlight with daggers or chanting cryptic stuff in caves. They're dressed in modest robes, hair tied back, probably smelling faintly of barley and smoke. And their job? To keep the fire going. That's it. It sounds simple. Too simple, maybe. But here's the twist. They can't let it go out. Ever. If the eternal flame dies, it's not just an oopsie. It's a crisis. Whole communities treat it like a spiritual blackout. And rekindling it isn't just a matter of grabbing a torch. It has to be done ritually, properly, often with fire carried from another sacred source. The drama lies in the discipline, not the spectacle. One mainstream historical fact here. In major cities like Athens, Delphi, or Olympia, your fire is central to civic life. Councils gather near it. Treaties are signed before it. It's like the divine Wi-Fi router. If it's down, no one's connecting to anything. And because you're everywhere but nowhere flashy, you almost become invisible. You fade into the background, not because people forget you, but because you're so constant, they take you for granted. Like breathing.
But here's the fringe twist. Despite your low drama status, you still inspire serious loyalty. Some of your followers go deep. There are quiet sects that see your calm as sacred silence. To them, every flicker of fire is a tiny sermon. Every meal cooked over a flame is a prayer. And unlike certain other deities who demand animal sacrifices or human attention spans longer than 5 seconds, you ask for simple things. A clean space, a focused mind, a warm offering. That's it. In a world that's constantly on fire, sometimes literally, thanks Aries, you're the one flame that's always under control. But don't get it twisted. You're not just the goddess of cozy evenings and family dinners. You're also the guardian of oaths. That means every time someone swears by the gods, you're listening. And if they lie, well, you still won't curse them. But you'll remember. You'll bear witness. That's your quiet flex. You're not loud, but you're always there, always watching. Like a celestial grandma with infinite patience and a memory like a steel trap. Even when the other gods fight, they often do it in your presence, because they know better than to start a riot without a hearth nearby. You're the buffer, the warm, flickering force field, keeping the divine nonsense at bay. And somehow, your lack of conflict becomes legendary. People say, Hestia never leaves Olympus. Not because you're scared, but because you don't have to.
Other gods go on wild adventures just to feel needed. You already are. You're the emotional anchor, the cosmic home base, the divine permission slip to sit down, exhale, and stop chasing whatever drama is currently trending. You're not the goddess of doing, you're the goddess of being. And in your silence, people hear peace. So yes, you don't ride chariots across the sky. You don't throw thunder. You don't engage in godly beefs. But when a family lights a candle, or a soldier returns home, or a newborn is bathed near a flame, you're there, always. And maybe that's the most sacred thing of all.
You'd think that after rejecting marriage proposals, establishing sacred eternal flames, and making silence into a virtue, you'd get a little break. But nope. Because now, Hestia, you become something even more demanding than a goddess. You become home. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Every single household in ancient Greece, from the poorest mud brick hut to the fanciest marble villa, has a hearth. And that hearth, that's you. A flickering, smoky, sometimes soot-covered version of you, glowing in the center of every room like a little ember-sized avatar of peace. You don't just live on Olympus anymore. You live in every house, every inn, every temple. You're like a divine roommate that never eats anyone's food or leaves their socks out, just sits quietly in the corner, being sacred. It starts with simple offerings: wine, bits of food, a sprinkle of flour tossed into the fire before a meal. Mortals don't need a full ceremony to talk to you. Just warmth, a flame, be a whisper. You're the goddess you can pray to in your pajamas. And when people move, they take you with them. Here's a mainstream historical fact that's both adorable and wildly impressive. When ancient Greek colonists set off to found a new city, they would take fire from their hometown's public hearth, fire consecrated to you, and carry it all the way across the sea. That sacred flame would then ignite the hearth in the new colony, symbolizing continuity, identity, and divine approval. Yes, Hestia, you were the original carry-on luggage. Imagine the responsibility. You're not just worshipped, you're relied on. Your presence is the mark of legitimacy. If a city doesn't have your fire, it isn't really a city. It's just a bunch of tents and bad decisions. And it doesn't stop at households. Each city-state, Athens, Corinth, Thebes, has a public hearth in your honor, usually housed in a structure called the Prytanion, kind of like a city hall, but with better lighting. There, your eternal fire is guarded by public officials, kept burning day and night. If that fire goes out, huge deal. Ceremonies, prayers, anxiety. It's like the soul of the city flickered and died for a moment. You don't just light homes, you hold identities together. Here's a fringe tidbit. In Sparta, even the famously war-obsessed Spartans, who had a national personality somewhere between a boot and a bicep, still honored you. Before going to battle, they'd offer you prayers, not to win, but to come home. Because no victory meant anything if the hearth wasn't waiting. That's what makes you different. Other gods are about action. You never storm. You just remain. Always burning, always blessing. People don't fear you. They depend on you. There's a difference. They don't build armies in your name. They build families. They build cities that thrive because they feel safe enough to settle, to cook, to gather, because you are there. And yet, ironically, this also means you sort of disappear from the headlines. There are almost no major myths about you, no epic battles, no divine scandals, just mentions, nods, that soft glow in the background. Historians still debate why.
Was it because you were too sacred to write about, too quiet to dramatize? Or maybe the bards just didn't know what to do with a goddess who refused to shout. But maybe that's your flex. Maybe your absence is your power. Because while the other gods rage, seduce, curse, and cry their way through the epics, you are present in every scene they return to, every moment they seek comfort, every time they need a safe place to land. You are the backstage crew of the divine world, the one holding the spotlight, even if you never step into it. And mortals feel that. Even if they don't know your full story, they know your warmth. They know that when they light the fire, they're not alone. They know that someone's listening, even if that someone doesn't interrupt. In a pantheon defined by noise, you are the silence between breaths. And somehow that silence holds the whole world together.
You've now transcended Olympus. You're in the walls of every home, the soul of every city, the little hum at the heart of civilization. You, Hestia, are literally everywhere, and yet still somehow invisible. It's kind of your thing. But with that omnipresence comes something weird, something unspoken. You're being left out. Not in a dramatic, banished from the realm way. Hera cornered the market on that. Not like Ares, who gets kicked out of every party for being too stabby. No, this is subtler. You start noticing it during the big feasts on Olympus, the stories told in mortal taverns, the plays in Athens that get roaring applause. They all talk about the same 12 Olympians, and you're not always one of them. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. Depends on who's counting, and let's be honest, how much Dionysus has bribed the poet, because when he shows up, wine-drenched and winking, suddenly he's got a throne at the table. And you're politely absent. This is the classic 12 Olympians conundrum. Only 12 thrones, but more than 12 divinely demanding personalities. And when Dionysus rolls up with his ecstatic cults and grape-fueled chaos, someone has to scoot. Guess who? That's right, you. But here's the thing. You choose to give up your throne. Voluntarily. You step aside and let Dionysus in because, well, the kid needs it. He's had a rough mythological arc. Dead mother, twice born, whole wine-based identity crisis. And you don't need a throne to rule. This moment, quiet, generous, and totally on brand, is strangely profound. Historians still argue whether this throne trade was a late invention to make room for Dionysus, or a reflection of how cult popularity shifted over time. Either way, it speaks volumes. You aren't kicked out, you bow out. With grace, with confidence, with absolute authority. It's kind of iconic. While everyone else on Olympus is fighting to be seen, worshipped, and remembered, you calmly make yourself less visible and somehow become more eternal. You're the divine embodiment of that phrase. The real ones don't need the spotlight. Still, it's not like you're vanishing. Your fire still burns in every home, every city, every wedding, every oath. You're just not showing up to the board meetings anymore. And honestly, that suits you. Let Dionysus throw his ragers. Let Apollo conduct his symphonies. Let Athena argue with everyone about what strategy really means. You have a flame to tend, and you do it better than anyone. Here's a fun, fringe tidbit. In some local Greek cults, especially in rural areas, you were the main deity. No Zeus, no Poseidon, just Hestia. Just home. You weren't forgotten. You were too important to leave. You were the goddess people turned to when they didn't want a miracle or a war won. Just a safe meal. A peaceful sleep. A place to sit and not be judged. You were the one they spoke to when no one else would understand. So you start to realize something. Not being at the party doesn't mean you aren't celebrated. You are the party, or at least the reason it can happen at all. No Hestia, no fire. No fire, no feast. No feast, no Dionysus. He literally owes you rent. You don't need a throne, because you're built into the architecture of Olympus itself, into every temple, every home, every flicker of light in the dark. And here's a mainstream fact that proves it. At the beginning and end of every sacrifice, no matter which god it's for, offerings go to you. Not as an afterthought, but as bookends. Because no sacred act is complete without you. You are the spiritual comma, the divine punctuation that holds every sentence together. So sure, Dionysus gets a seat, but you get something better. You get everywhere. And in your absence, people finally realize what you mean. You're not dramatic enough to be missed in the moment, but without you, the whole world feels off. Cold, unanchored. You're like gravity, or seasoning. You don't think about it until it's gone. Then suddenly, nothing tastes right. Nothing feels safe. And even though you're technically not sitting in that marble chair anymore, your fire still burns at the center of Olympus, right there in the main hall, flickering quietly. Never out, never forgotten. Your throne might be empty, but your presence, constant. You are the proof that divinity doesn't need to shout. Sometimes, it just needs to glow. By now, your fire has warmed generations. Your name is whispered in kitchens and carved into the cornerstones of temples. You've made stillness sacred, made opting out feel like a flex, and your glow has become something close to eternal. But even gods can't avoid the slow shuffle of time, because here comes something new, something called Rome. Loud, ambitious, confident in the way only people building empires and wearing short tunics can be. And like most rising civilizations, they start borrowing a lot. Gods, rituals, architecture, language. If Greece was the mythological blueprint, Rome is the copy, stamped, scaled up, and sold as the deluxe edition. So of course, they meet you. But Romans are not known for subtlety. They like their gods with swords, lightning bolts, or at the very least, dramatic love affairs, which you do not provide. Still, when they look at your name, Hestia, they decide to give you a new one, a Latin rebrand. You become Vesta, and girl, they go hard for Vesta. It's one of those rare moments in myth history where the quieter goddess actually becomes more powerful in the next culture over. Because in Rome, Vesta isn't just the hearth goddess. She becomes the cornerstone of empire. Here's a mainstream historical fact. The Temple of Vesta in Rome, located in the Roman Forum, is not just a temple, it's the symbolic heart of the city. It houses the eternal flame of Rome itself. As long as that flame burns, Rome is alive. And who keeps it burning? The Vestal Virgins. 6 women, hand-picked as children, sworn to 30 years of chastity and service. They are trained, watched, honored, feared. Half priestess, half political instrument, all symbols of order. For 3 decades, they don't marry, they don't own property, they don't engage in public life. Unless, of course, someone messes with the flame. Then it becomes a very public affair. And if a Vestal lets the sacred fire go out, or breaks her vow of virginity, let's just say the punishment is not a strongly worded letter. Fringe but true, a disgraced Vestal could be buried alive, in a tomb, with just enough food to avoid saying it was an execution. So yeah, the stakes were high, but when honored, the Vestals had privileges few women in Rome ever touched. They could own wealth, free slaves, ride in carriages usually reserved for the elite. Even emperors deferred to them. And at the center of all of it, you. Your fire,
your vow, your peace, institutionalized into a system of high-pressure calm. Historians,
You're still the same core presence, warmth, stillness, continuity. The Romans just took what the Greeks almost overlooked and said, actually, let's build an empire on this. And the people, they still love you. Before every meal, fire is lit in your name. Every major state ritual, every festival, every home-cooked dinner. It starts with a spark meant for you. Children learn your name before they learn about Mars or Jupiter. You are everywhere and nowhere, again. The Temple of Vesta isn't open to just anyone. It's round, symbolizing eternity, the hearth, the center. No statues, just flame. No blood sacrifices, just offerings of grain and salt cakes. Even Rome, with all its conquest and gladiator flair, still knows better than to mess with your style. And when Rome burns, as cities tend to do, the first priority is always your fire. If it goes out, everything is in question. Which is wild, considering you don't command armies or hurl thunder. You just exist. And yet, they treat you like a firewall against chaos. No one builds a temple just to silence, but Rome builds one for you. And while other gods might find their myths distorted or merged or lost in translation, you stay pure. No wild romances tacked on, no vengeful side quests added later. Just you, forever tending the edge of the flame. And when the empire starts to fall, when emperors lose their grip, and the gods begin to fade, it is said that the last ritual performed in the ancient temples of Rome was the extinguishing of your flame. Not as punishment, not as defeat, but as closure, as a whisper of thanks to the goddess who held it all together, quietly, from the start. By the time the Roman Empire starts unraveling, like a toga at a frat party, most gods have either been merged, forgotten, or awkwardly repackaged for the new religious market. Some go out with a bang, others get rebranded into saints, demons, or metaphors. But you, Hestia, Vesta, technically, exit the stage like you lived. Silently, gracefully, with zero fanfare. No thunder, no collapse, just a fading glow. And maybe that's perfect, because your presence has never been about spectacle. You were never the diva, never the drama, never the one who needed golden temples with 50-foot statues. You were the soft burn in the corner, the one that made a house a home, the one that didn't need to say anything to be heard. But now, things are changing, fast. Christianity is sweeping through Rome like a divine wildfire with excellent PR. The old gods? Falling out of fashion faster than you can say paganism. Temples are being repurposed, rituals rewritten, and statues toppled. And your flame, your sacred, guarded, centuries-old eternal fire, is finally allowed to go out. No ceremony, no weeping, just a quiet, final puff of smoke. It's 391 CE when Emperor Theodosius bans non-Christian worship. The Vestal Virgins are dismissed. The Temple of Vesta is sealed. The eternal flame that once symbolized the heartbeat of an empire flickers its last. After a millennium of careful tending, the fire is gone. And you don't fight it. You don't throw a lightning bolt from some forgotten mountaintop or smite the nearest bishop. You don't protest or pout. You do what you've always done. You step back, quietly, with a soft dignity that no other deity even attempts. Historians still argue whether your cult truly vanished or just went underground. Some believe rural homes continued lighting fires in your honor for centuries. Others think you lived on through domestic customs and hearth traditions, like a silent echo, not quite dead, just transformed. Because here's the thing, gods don't always disappear. Sometimes they just evolve. While Jupiter becomes a shadow of Zeus and Venus a painted figure on Italian ceilings, you become something else entirely. An instinct, a habit, a feeling. You turn into every candle lit during a storm, every family meal blessed before eating, every kitchen where people gather, whether they realize it or not, for comfort. A fringe tidbit? In some early Christian homes, the kitchen hearth continued to be treated with a strange, almost ritual respect. Bread broken there felt sacred. Fires were extinguished with murmured thanks. No one said your name, but they remembered you. You're like muscle memory now. Even today, the word hearth still carries your ghost. It means more than just fireplace. It means home, safety, belonging. People say hearth and home like a spell, not realizing that once it was one. You've become untraceable and omnipresent all at once.
And maybe that's the highest form of divinity there is. Not needing temples, but living in gestures. Not asking for loyalty, but being remembered through warmth. Other gods wanted statues. You became a concept. You left Olympus, you gave up your throne. You watched Rome rise and fall, and still, when people gather, when someone lights a candle in the dark, or leans over a stove whispering a quiet hope, there you are. Your mythology faded, but your meaning, it expanded, because the world doesn't always need firestorms. Sometimes it just needs a small, steady flame. And that's you. You're the goddess of there's no place like home, of slippers and soup, and that soft exhale when the front door finally clicks shut. You are everywhere people feel safe enough to stop. That's your temple now. Not marble columns, but kitchens, living rooms, campfires, night lights, memory. And sure, your name might not trend like it used to. You won't find tourists lining up to take selfies with the ruins of your temple. Though, side note, the round foundation still exists. Go off, historical footprint. But in a world full of noise and chaos, you remain the whisper. You, Hestia, are what people come back to. Always. Even when they don't realize they're coming back to you. Time keeps crawling forward, as it does, dragging your memory further into the background. Olympus fades into poetry, Rome becomes ruins, marble gods crack in museums, and you, Hestia, the warmest goddess with quietest PR team in mythological history, become more and more of a ghost. But not the scary kind. You're the kind of ghost that makes people sigh in relief when they enter a room. A presence that's less boo and more breathe. Because even if your temples crumble, the idea of you doesn't. It morphs, it settles into stories people don't even realize are yours. Fairy tales where a warm fire protects the traveler from the storm, nursery rhymes about hearth and home, even Christmas traditions, think candles in windows and families gathered round, carry your fingerprint. You're the goddess of cinnamon smells, mismatched socks, and soup simmering on a rainy day, and sure, you're no longer name-dropped in sacrifices or carved into the sides of altars, but somehow, your myth keeps re-emerging like a cozy loop. People rediscover you without meaning to, like that one book they didn't know they needed until they stayed up too late reading it under a blanket. Sometimes you're hidden in literature, sometimes in architecture, sometimes in a quiet moment between friends, where no one's talking, but everyone feels safe. Here's a mainstream fact that would probably make you chuckle if you weren't so calmly divine. During the Victorian era, when industrialization was turning homes into brick-walled efficiency machines, there was a sudden revival of interest in the hearth. Writers and moralists waxed poetic about the sanctity of the fireside and keeping the home flame alive. They didn't call you Hestia, but they were basically doing your PR. You see, even capitalism couldn't kill your vibe. And while no one's building new temples to you, people start building their lives around your legacy. The hearth becomes metaphor, then cliché, then myth again, and still it works. Fringe tidbit. In some modern neo-pagan traditions, especially among Hellenic revivalists, you're actually having a moment. Small altars dedicated to you are being lit in apartments in New York, basements in Berlin, balconies in Bangkok. These modern Hestia stands don't ride chariots or chant in robes. They just light a flame, say your name, ask for warmth. And you keep showing up. Because even if you've been mythologized into obscurity, your whole brand is obscurity. You don't need to be seen. You just need to be felt. You are, in many ways, the anti-drama goddess, the original soft life deity. In a pantheon of war, jealousy, vanity, seduction, and big-time ego problems, you're the only one who says, "What if we just didn't?" You're the goddess of stillness in a timeline that never stops scrolling. The quiet room in the middle of a noisy house. The part of someone's story that isn't about climbing a mountain. You're the part where they come home and rest their forehead against the door and finally let go of whatever they were pretending to hold together. Historians still debate whether your legacy is underrated or intentionally erased. Some say your simplicity didn't make for good stories. Others argue that your myth was too central, too everyday to get the epic treatment. After all, you're not the hero. You're the fire that keeps the hero warm when they come back. That's not less. It's everything. And the modern world, chaotic and restless as it is, kind of needs you now more than ever. It just doesn't always know it. It thinks it needs productivity, purpose, power. But it actually needs peace, needs softness, safety. A place to let your guard down. A flickering reminder that you don't have to earn rest. You just have to allow it. That's your legacy. You're not a punchline or a battle cry. You're the soft place to land. You're the goddess who doesn't save people from dragons, but who hands them tea and a blanket after. And that's real power. Because thrones can be taken. Empires can burn, maims can fade. But warmth? That stays. It's a strange thing watching the centuries roll by without ever needing to chase them. The world reinvents itself over and over. Plows become engines, scrolls become screens, and candles flicker into electric bulbs. Gods are forgotten, reinvented, or rebranded as comic book characters. But you, Hestia, you never really leave. Because plot twist, you're not a relic. You're a rhythm. You're that ancient cadence built into modern life. You're the breath we don't notice until someone tells us to take a deep one. You've become less a name and more a pulse in the quiet parts of our day. And unlike your Olympian siblings who crave worship and spectacle, you're happy just being felt. Here's something kind of wild. You're in every welcome home sign. Every front porch light left on, every text me when you get there. You're that invisible tether that pulls people back toward each other. Not through obligation, through comfort. And even though no one's tossing barley into sacred flames these days, unless it's a very confused cooking fail, your energy still radiates in domestic rituals. Turning on the kettle, folding laundry, lighting a candle before dinner. You're in the small stuff. The stuff no one Instagrams. And that's your domain. One mainstream historical fact: in Greek Orthodox households, even today, many families still light a candle before icons at home, especially during big meals or holidays. It's often done silently, automatically, but it's the same ritual bones you've always loved. Fire, intention, stillness. Sure, the names may have changed, the doctrines too, but the sacredness of shared space, the respect for warmth, for presence, for home, that's pure Hestia. Now here's a fun fringe tidbit. There's a crater on the asteroid Vesta, yes, your Roman name, that scientists named Hestia, which means you've now officially reached space. Congratulations. You went from kitchen goddess to interplanetary rock star without leaving your seat. Iconic. So even the coldest corners of the galaxy carry your name. But honestly, you never needed stars. You had stovetops. You're the reason some people cry in the kitchen without knowing why. You're the invisible hug in the middle of a thunderstorm. You're that moment someone says, "You're safe now," and means it. Other gods represent conquest or chaos, change or glory. But you represent enough. That's it. You don't need monuments because you make peace feel like one. You make a clean floor feel holy. You make silence feel like company. And look, it's not like people have completely forgotten your story. Your name still pops up in textbooks, museum plaques, trivia rounds, but it's always short. A sentence or two. Hestia, Greek goddess of the hearth, known for her virginity and domestic role. Yawn.
What they miss, what you chose peace and then kept choosing it every day for eternity. That's not passive, that's powerful. Historians still debate whether your absence from epic tales was a sign of irrelevance or respect. But honestly, you never needed a Homer to write your name in 12 books. You were already etched into every firelit meal, every tucked-in child, every "how was your day?" You don't need fanfare. You've always been the goddess of arrival, of settling, of enoughness. And that may not make you the star of every myth, but it makes you something rarer. The one gods and mortals alike turn to when the myth is over, when the battle's done, when the thunder quiets, when the music fades and the crowd goes home. That's when your light matters most. Not because it's the loudest, but because it's still burning. At this point, you've become something far beyond what mythology ever planned for you. Not a story, not a statue, not even a goddess in the way the rest of Olympus tried to define it. You're more like infrastructure, spiritual muscle memory, the glow at the center of human life that somehow outlived its origin myth. You're what happens when people stop needing fireworks and start needing rest. And that's rare, because most ancient gods don't age well. Take Ares, for example. He's all battle rage and ego problems, which doesn't exactly translate to a modern world of email wars and passive-aggressive emojis. Or Aphrodite, who got flattened into a perfume ad. Even Athena, sharp as she is, has trouble staying relevant when no one wants actual owls whispering strategy at them in the middle of a team meeting. But you never had a gimmick, so you never needed one to evolve. You just are, the original, don't make it weird, goddess. And while other deities get cosplay conventions or summer blockbusters, you thrive in subtler places, like those small, quiet routines that modern life tries to crush, but that people cling to anyway. Lighting a candle when the power goes out? That's you. Eating the first bite of food in silence? You. Holding someone's hand in the kitchen because no one's talking, but it still feels like everything's being said? Oh yeah, definitely you. Here's a mainstream fact that proves your staying power. Even today, hearth is used in national mottos, wedding vows, home real estate copy, and interior design blogs. Hearth and home is shorthand for safety, love, belonging. Your brand still slaps. And not to be dramatic, but you're also low-key the blueprint for the modern idea of emotional labor. You've always held space for others, always done the work of being calm when everyone else is on fire. You're the invisible glue holding chaotic families, cities, and sometimes entire civilizations together. No sword, no thunderbolt, just patience, presence, persistence. It's kind of ridiculous how ahead of your time you were. While everyone else was chasing glory, you were curating vibes, creating sacred space before it was a hashtag, being delulu about work-life balance before burnout had a name. And somehow, even without being worshipped, you never left. Here's a fringe tidbit. In some Japanese Shinto traditions, the Kamatogami, gods of the kitchen hearth, share eerie similarities with you. They guard fire, receive food offerings, and represent peace in the home. They're not flashy, just deeply respected. Sound familiar? Different culture, same sacred energy. Historians still argue whether this kind of parallel means there's something universal about the hearth. Some say it's coincidence. Others say it's proof that every human culture, eventually, figures out how badly we all need a quiet center. And that center always looks a little like you. Now the world today, it's not exactly made for goddesses like you. Everything's too fast, too loud. People run on caffeine and capitalism. They worship convenience. They burn out for sport. But even then, especially then, they need something warm to come back to. And so, you keep showing up. Every time someone turns on a bedside lamp instead of an overhead light, trying to make the room feel gentler, you're there. Every time someone says, "Text me when you get home," or "Take your time," or "You're safe here," that's a modern prayer to you. They might not know your name anymore, but they know you. You're the hush in the hallway when the baby finally falls asleep, the smell of bread baking after a long day, the echo of laughter in a room no one wanted to leave. You are what survives. You are what softens. You are what stays.
And if the modern world ever forgets how to sit still long enough to feel you, you'll wait. You've waited before. After all, you are eternal. Not because you demand to be, but because people need you to be. By now, you're not just mythology. You're mythology's shadow. Its heartbeat, its echo, its kitchen timer, forever ticking softly in the background. Hestia, you've outlasted thrones and flames and temples and entire empires. Not because you fought to survive, but because you were always already there. You didn't need to shout to be heard. You didn't need temples to be sacred. And you definitely didn't need to post about it. In the age of information, where every second is competing with another notification, another headline, another hot take, your energy might seem too gentle, too quiet, too easy to scroll past. But here's the thing. People don't realize how badly they need you until they hit the wall. Until they've burned out their ambition, ghosted their own joy, and can't remember the last time they breathed with both lungs. And then, right when everything crashes into silence, that's when you arrive. No thunderclap, no lightning bolt, just a little spark in the dark. The first deep inhale in hours. The first moment someone lets their shoulders drop. Because in this world of dopamine loops and infinite scrolling, you are the stillness people forgot how to want. Here's a mainstream fact that might blow a few modern minds. In 2022, searches for how to create a cozy home and hearth decorating ideas spiked globally. Interior designers started calling it the new sacred space. They weren't invoking your name, but Hestia, that was your energy all over Pinterest. And it's not just about throw pillows and artisanal candles. It's about people begging, without always realizing it, for sanctuary, for rituals, for something real that doesn't involve a 7-step productivity hack or a 30-second life coaching reel. You don't fix the world by fixing the world. You fix it by fixing the room. A warm cup, a steady chair, a light someone left on for you. And if that doesn't scream divinity, what even does? Meanwhile, let's talk about those who still keep your flame literally alive. There are modern Hellenists, tiny but passionate, circles of folks across the world who light candles to you every day. No pressure, no performance, just intention. Some call you Hestia, others Vesta. Some don't even use names. They just know that when the flame burns, it means presence. Fringe tidbit, there's even a quiet trend in slow living movement that centers around the phrase hearth tending. It's not religious, it's not even always spiritual, but it's straight up your job description. People reclaiming time to cook mindfully, to sit near a fire, to care for their space like it's alive. That's you, in yoga pants and houseplants, but still you. Historians still argue whether your influence truly persists or if it's just nostalgia in new packaging. But let's be honest, if people are rebuilding their homes and minds around stillness, warmth, and belonging, does it really matter what they call it? You were never in it for the credit. You don't care about trending.
You care about tending. And in a world that's collectively exhausted, the divine has to feel a little different now. Less thunderbolt, more tea kettle, less shouting from mountaintops, more soft conversations under string lights. Your legacy is no longer carved in marble. It's etched into routines. Every bedtime story told without rushing. Every front door locked with a whispered goodnight. Every moment someone chooses to stay present instead of panicking about what's next. You are the goddess of that, of making here feel like enough. And your old myth, the one with thrones and flames and virgin vows, it's not gone. It's just evolved. It's been rewritten in every hand that stirs a pot, folds a blanket, or lights a candle for no reason except that it feels right. Because that is worship too. The quiet kind. The best kind. And no matter how much the world changes, you'll keep showing up. At every dinner table, every windowsill, every flicker of warmth between people who don't need to talk to know they're safe. You're not the goddess of the past. You're the goddess of right now. And honestly, you always were.
And so here you are, Hestia. Not forgotten, just woven in. Woven into the folds of curtains that smell like home. Into the crackle of a fireplace while rain taps against the windows. Into the way someone rearranges the couch cushions before guests arrive. Not out of vanity, but love. Your throne may have been given away, Your temples may have closed. Your name may no longer echo across mountaintops. But your power? It's thriving. Because in every era, every culture, every corner of the world, people find their way back to you without even knowing it. They sit around campfires, they hang fairy lights, they gather at kitchen tables long after the meal is over, sipping something warm and laughing about nothing important. And every time they do, your flame flickers a little stronger. You're the goddess of real-time softness, of low-stakes intimacy, of not needing to explain why you're tired, or why you came home early, or why you just want to sit quietly for a while. You're the permission slip people didn't know they needed, a mainstream fact to light the way. In modern architecture, the trend of the open floor plan, the heart of home life revolving around the kitchen and common space, is often framed as innovation. But it's really a full circle moment. The hearth is back at the center. You're back in the center. Even without firewood, even without a nameplate. You were always the real main character of the myth, the one holding space for everyone else to exist, for gods to rage and return, for heroes to go out and come back, for people to mess up, break down, and rebuild again. You don't offer revenge or rebirth, you offer refuge, and that's rarer than ever. Fringe tidbit: during the pandemic lockdowns, when people were stuck indoors, overwhelmed, and uncertain, guess what soared in popularity? Baking, candle making, home decor. People didn't reach for swords or miracles. They reached for you, quietly, instinctively. They turned inward, turned homeward. They built altars out of sourdough starters and windowsill herb gardens. Historians still argue whether your myth has a climax, but you know the truth. You were the climax. You were the part where people stopped running, sat down, looked around, and said, This is it. Because you're not about the next thing. You're about this thing, now. You are the moment the noise fades and the warmth stays. You are the small sacred breath between all the chaos. And maybe the world will never chant your name the way they do Zeus or Aphrodite. Maybe your stories will always be the shortest, the softest, the most easily skipped in textbooks. But that's okay, because when people finally close the book, turn off the light, and settle under their blankets, it's you they feel. A whisper, a flicker, a gentle golden reminder that even in the dark, there is warmth. So now, as the night settles in deeper and the edges of your thoughts begin to blur, let yourself drift into the softness you've built all around you. There's no rush, no checklist, no final form to achieve. Just this. Breath in, breath out. Let your body get heavier with each passing second, like warm sand sinking into the earth. Feel the air move gently against your skin, the way your chest rises and falls and rises again. Picture a quiet room, lit by the slow glow of a small fire. There's no one demanding your attention, no gods arguing, no timelines to chase, just the sound of the flame. Steady, calm, alive. That's Hestia. That's home. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw loosen. Let your heartbeat fall into sync with something older than stories, older than history, something gentle and eternal. The world can wait. Your inbox can wait. Everything loud and fast can wait. Right now, this moment belongs to you, to the stillness, to the warmth, to the hush that holds all things together, even when it's invisible. So close your eyes, breathe out just a little longer this time, and let yourself rest in the sacred silence you didn't know you needed. Hestia's flame is still burning, and you are already home.